Hmm? That's
you right now.
Yeah, that's the new one that I just set up, right? Okay. You see, okay. You see the chat on? Okay, I see that you are on, and you're the main reason why we're doing this in the first place. So welcome, Chris. Thanks for hopping on. Thanks for bearing with me here. We will probably end up renaming this stream later for a more appropriate name, but what we're doing tonight is this Kato SD40-2. This is just another installment in my Visitor from the East series. I'm painting and detailing this unit. I don't know if you noticed that or not, but what we're doing tonight is fixing that Kato SD40-2 pickup problem that was unique to these engines, and I suffered a little bit of a setback earlier this week. We were going to be working on this Union Pacific unit that I took on trade from a buddy for some paint work a year or so ago, and I opened it up. And the setback is that this has already been done on here. A gentleman before me did a DCC install here, and he did it a little bit differently than I did. But this is also probably a valid way of doing it. Maybe not so much if you're going to do away with that Kato PC board, but he ran some real narrow gauge wire from the top of those pickups to the PC board here, way down there. If I was using a drop-in board replacement from like a Digitrax or a Soundtrax or somebody like that, we would want those wires up here rather than down here, but that's kind of small potatoes. The upside is that I do have some work on this unit, and I will show you this procedure tonight, and we'll move through this. Some basic tools that we need. Of course, you see the soldering iron. I've got a Weller soldering iron here. I think and I used to use just a cheap Radio Shack, like a $20 one, and that one worked just fine, except that I've been told that those don't have any kind of thermostat in them, and they'll burn through tips and all that kind of thing, and they're not very easy to dial in. They're just kind of one setting, hot and not hot. If you don't want any more heat, then you unplug them. If you want more heat, then you plug it back in. So I've got this, and I've got it kind of turned down just a little ways. I've got a needle nose plier curved beak here with some rubber band on it to hold it closed. We'll need that here after a bit. Several hobby knives. This is for prying on the mechanism. A couple of screwdrivers. And that should get us where we need to be. Oh, yeah, and then I won't forget NMRA standards gauge. This isn't absolutely mandatory, but I'll kind of show you one thing that I noticed. So this procedure that we're doing here is kind of threefold or three-purposeful. First of all, we're fixing that pickup issue on the Kato SD40-2. I guess with Kato, the early production ones, the most modern releases from Kato aren't affected by this problem, but there's a couple other items out there. I've got this is an Atlas red box U30C or U33C, I'm not sure which, that I've done a very similar procedure with. It's got that gear case on the bottom, and with these, if you ever take these apart or ever see these factory new in the box, they've got that contact strip behind the truck side frame there, and that shows through the finished model. And I wanted to deaden that down, so that required basically disassembly of that entire truck, which is very similar to the Kato. Disassembly of the Kato truck, painted it and put it back together. I painted the wheels while I had it apart, and also gauged the wheels. Another example of a job kind of like that, Kato SD40 Mac here, that I did the same thing, and I don't care for the appearance of the chrome plated mag wheels that these things come with, so I did the same procedure. Took the trucks apart, and one more reason for taking these things all apart is that I've noticed on these Katos that almost 100% of the time, or at least in my experience anyway, almost 100% of the time, the wheel gauge is too narrow, and that's why I have the NMRA standards gauge here, just to show you. And I won't be able to show you this because I think I've walked through the changing of the wheel gauge on this engine already. But I'm going to show you the procedure, and I've done quite a few of these, and I've yet to see one that isn't tight in the gauge. It meets standards. The wheels, the flanges fit down in the flange ways, but they're almost always tight in the gauge. You can't wiggle the wheels back and forth. And what I would like to see is to be able to have some play either way. I want to be right down the middle. I don't want to be tight inside the gauge here. So a little piece of foam that we'll get started with here, start tearing this thing apart. And why we're doing this on this unit, so again, this is my visitor from the east, and while I was walking through this, I noticed that I had broken a wire here, and here's another little commandment. I've got I didn't do my wires here very well on this installation. Probably should fix that, but like you mentioned about decoder wire is absolutely fine. As long as it's stranded wire, you're going to do fine with your installation. I'm going to check on my chat here to make sure I don't have any feedback. Pardon me a minute. Iron is hot and ready. Good. So we'll get you to this. I'll turn this over here, and we'll get started on this right into the meat of this here. And again, I want to make sure I'm right in the middle of what the camera can see here. So we're going to do this one at a time. What I'm going to begin with doing, and I'm going to be really careful what there is here. I don't know if the camera can see this or not. I'm trying to get a little closer. There are a couple of tabs on either side of this gear case that we want to get out of there. You can see one right there, and then there's one up front. And what we're going to be going for is that one in the front. You can look in there and kind of see right behind that front axle. Right, trying to do this with a two-handed type thing. So right where my knife blade is there, you'll see that there's a clip that extends, I guess, if the locomotive was on its feet, up toward the sky, I guess. And I'm just going to insert my hobby knife on between the gear case itself and that clip. And I can feel, I'm not going to cut it, but I can feel when I'm just bending it out a little bit. And I only need like 0.5 millimeter worth there. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side here. And I think that one might be broken. And what I'm going to use my screwdriver, I can use a, actually, I can use a toothpick or something, whatever I can get a hold of to hold that case up there. So I've got that screwdriver inserted now. And then there's another set of clips right behind that second axle. You following me here? And what I'm going to do is insert that screwdriver a little further. And now we've got that, we're just disengaging those clips as we move backwards here. And then we're finally going to get to that, that rear one here. You can kind of see why I'm using a hobby knife instead of a screwdriver here. By the time we get to that last set of clips, I'm trying to do this so you can see it on camera here. By the time we get to that last set of clips, should almost be able to pry that off, but we don't want to do anything. And it's, you see that gear cover kind of hop there a little bit. I believe that's completely disengaged from the gear case now, and everything sort of falls apart. Well, I've still got that that far side yet to get out of there. There. And it looks like, so I've got, so this is what it looks like out of there, and it looks like one of those tabs has been broken off of there. That's why I didn't feel it with a knife on this side, that first one there. When I had to learn this the hard way. I'd worked on a lot of Atherns before I got my first Kato. I got into the Katos probably 20 years ago or so, and had a need to get inside, hack into one of these gear cases one time, and went about it and just started prying like you would on an Athern, one of those old blue box units, and that does not work in this situation at all. And again, I recommend doing this one at a time. So I can just pry I can just slide the frame out. How these work is there's pegs on this clip here. You see the between the clips, there's pegs that insert down and hold the side frame onto the gear case, basically, with those little holes you see in those legs on the side frame. And again, and we'll set that cover aside and the side frames aside, and then kind of everything sort of falls apart after that. And your procedure is going to be a little different here than mine is now, because I've already got this painted and everything. But what I'll do when I get these apart, when I've never done a unit before, and this is actually the first time that I've taken one of these apart, after this procedure has been done. But what I wanted to show you, make sure we understand here, I need to find where my standards gauge went. So I'm going to back this out just a little bit again. So that wheel set has a little bit of play in it. I can feel there's play in between the flanges and the template here on that wheel set. That one's a little bit wide, actually, oddly enough. And what it takes to adjust that is just basically a little bit of pressure and a slight twist. Not much at all. It's almost kind of hard to believe that those half axles actually grab the wheels and make them spin. That one seems to be fine. I can feel the tapping on either side from the flange. And then the other thing that I do is just a cosmetic thing while I have these apart. Just take a little bit of paint, and my personal favorite is this Poly S Roof Brown. I use this on a lot of stuff. You've seen me perhaps on other videos use these run that through the airbrush to weather couplers and stuff like that. Engine black would be another good choice. It doesn't necessarily have to be poly S. I've used just this cheap apple barrel stuff before. Burnt umber. You use whatever you feel like you need. Maybe you like them a little bit more rusty. This SD70 Mac, I don't remember what color I used on that, but that's more of a rust color than it is probably anything else. I do not remember what this model I put together probably upwards of 12 or 13 years ago now, so I'm not good at remembering that long ago. Half the time I can't remember what I had for dinner versus. So we'll get back to the electrical here. So we're not going to bother with the, let's see, so this would be the engineer side. Another thing, so you got your wire there. I guess I would say in this case, don't do as I do, do as I say. And it would be a better idea to match the color. So the front of the locomotive is here. The engineer side would be over here. On this side, that would make this the right rail on this side, the left rail on this side. So ordinarily a person would probably try and put the red wire to the right rail and the black wire to the left, but it's pretty obvious to me where these are going anyway. So color coding, and normally I don't, once I close one of these up, there isn't really much reason to ever go back in them again. So I guess again, do as I do or do as I say and not as I do type thing. And you said you're kind of hoarding decoder wire, and you kind of use what you got on hand. So you see where, let's see, we'll piece this back together here a little bit. And you kind of want to, as far as where we solder here on this piece, I've already kind of predetermined that a little bit. But you sort of want to eyeball that, and I need to put that wire back down through there before I solder it out of here and then have to try and fish that back through. So we're going to strip that wire. I'm going to get a little side cutter here and strip that down just slightly. And what I was going to say here, so when you're taking this apart, you kind of got to pay attention to the orientation of the copper pickup strip. You can see that there's kind of a outdent there. This is the outside of that pickup strip, and so we want to make sure we get that solder joint on the inside of that so it doesn't interfere with the, because this fits flush on the side frame. So we want to go on the inside of that, and then we also want to miss the wheels as they sit in there. And that might be a little close for comfort, but we also need to have that that opening there available as well. So I think this is probably okay. We don't want any more solder on that, so I probably will avoid putting any new on there. We'll just tin the wire on the locomotive and go from there. So how are we doing? Okay, so you're hacked in there. Good. Okay. So we will get rid of this foam temporarily, move our parts off to the side so they don't roll away. And then soldering iron's heated up. Find a little hunk of solder. Find the end of it here. And I'm going to tin this wire here before we get started with the actual solder. Make things go together a lot more easily. And then ordinarily my needle nose plier here. What we're going to do is typically I would just I would just tin this this contact strip, but since we've already tinned it from a job previously, and we're going to need to use a little bit more heat here because this is a bigger piece of metal, of course. So we're just going to, and this would actually be a little easier if I didn't have to worry about that piece of wire. There. So those are joined together now. And obviously you'll do that 2 times for the front and 2 times for the back. But essentially, we're ready for reassembly at this point. So again, so I'll zoom back in here again. So you can kind of see how things need to line up here, that those 2 holes in that gear case and that contact strip need to line up over that. And actually I'm backwards here. Sorry about that. And so that side frame can go in there. How you doing, Chris? I'm going to start reassembling here, and normally kind of what I do, so if I'm doing this just from scratch, I'll insert those wires, and normally I'll back out here again. And normally I'll run my wires, and I'll run a lot longer wires than I need and then cut them to length up here. But in this case, that's kind of already been decided for me. I decided it a long time ago, I guess you could say. And I'll start putting those wheels back in there. And typically what I'll do is paint those wheels and set them aside, paint one side of them, set them aside, go do something else, come back and paint the other side, needing to make sure we don't get any paint on that bearing surface there at all, because that's going to interfere with your continuity if you do. And I have gotten it on there before. That acrylic paint is pretty forgiving. Typically just a fingernail, or maybe even if you really want to get aggressive, a Q-tip with some acetone on it or something, or they'll clean that right up. So these don't have any particular numbering or anything, even spacing. I'm just going to insert those back in there. Okay, I see you're tacking wire. So you're kind of with us. Whoops. Forget that I don't have that tacked in there yet. So I kind of want to do this whole operation all at one time here. So we're going to put those contact strips onto those bearings all at one time, and they sort of want to roll around a little bit. And the reason why I do these, or I suggested to do these separately, and you can do them all at one time, but just make sure you keep them separate so it's a little easier to tell, because I think there's a right and a left, or a front and back, or something like that to these. There may be mirror image from each other or something like that, because that strip that goes up to the frame is offset. So I think it's 2 different parts for front and back. And trying to get this located on there again. So you can kind of feel I've got everything here back together again, and just holding it together with my fingers. And then I'm going to sort of hold this loosely and go get the one side frame, slip that in, and everything kind of, you can feel everything fits together there nicely. And then we do the other side. Do the other side. And then basically what you'll see here is those legs, or those holes in the side frames, and the ends of those pins will line up in those holes that you see in between the two sets of, or the three sets of wheel sets. So right here and here and here and here is where those pins go in from the gear case. And again, you can see why you'd screw things up if you just went and pried on that like you would an Athearn blue box unit. I thought I knew a thing or two about working on diesel engines when I did that, and I didn't. Again, that was school of hard knocks. And maybe I still don't. I could probably stand to learn a thing or two here. And I learned right away. I did this for a clinic several years ago, and before I did it, I was told that always assume that there's somebody in the room that knows more about the subject that you're presenting on than you do. So probably good words to live by. So we've got that back together there, and the rear is pretty much just a mirror image of the front. You're taking that gear case off the same way. And for that matter, when I was talking about the SD70, let me zoom back out here again. I can. You can tell I'm new at this. I've never run a camera on the phone from the YouTube app before. So again, on the U33C, it's a very similar procedure. If you've got one of these on hand, there's that same, actually, I think there's, the clips are set up a little different, but you still have clips that you need to pry off from underneath there. Again, and I think if I remember correctly, I saw the same wheel gauge issue on these units as with basically every Kato unit I've ever worked on has had that. And I'm not saying 100% of them will have that, but I'm just telling you that I've probably been in at least 50 of them, and they've all had them too narrow. And the same thing with the SD70. These were too narrow too, and again, it could stand to be cleaned up a little bit. And I don't know, maybe that rust color that I used there wasn't maybe the best choice, but I wanted these to appear fairly new, and when you're going for something like that, you probably, maybe it wasn't that bad of a choice. Just want to catch up with you here a minute. So I was kind of thinking about doing a sound decoder install, or getting started on that tonight, but I don't think that's going to happen. We got started later than I wanted to here. For later episodes, we will be installing, I'm not sure what speaker we're going to use yet, but we are going to install Tsunami 2 decoder here that I've got. I bought this quite a while ago. Knowing what I know now, I might have bought a decoder buddy and then got one of those 21 pin outfits, and they're about the same price. That decoder buddy is a little bit of an upgrade though, but from what I hear, it makes the wiring on the lights a little bit easier, a little bit more straightforward. But we're gonna skip that tonight, I think, and leave that for another time. I'm not sure whether that'll be a live or I'll do that as a long format type YouTube video. So how are you doing out there, Chris? You think you got enough to go on here? Okay, soundtracks economy. Okay. Yeah, so have you ever done one of those before, or they're not really that bad? Okay, good. So you're ready to go. Yeah, I hope to hear from you sometime on how your sound installation goes. I probably will use. I'm going to try fiber optics for the lights on this one. I'm not going to try and reuse the. Well, obviously on this board, it'd be nice if they made a board that had the replacement with the LEDs in the same place as the Kato, but they don't, and I think maybe it'd be fun to try an LED and fiber optic installation this time. I've been meaning to do that. I think I got everything I need to do that, but we'll see here as time goes on. So got quite a few things to get to before this happens, but again, we'll see how it goes. So appreciate your attention and everybody else that might be following along on a recording. Glad you could make it, and hope you consider subscribing. Hit the like button, of course, and we'll see you in the next one, I guess. So thank you very much for staying up late with me, Chris. And I hope to hear from you sometime down the road. Good night, sir. We'll see you next time.